What's going on? Transworld Live. How are you? We are back. It is Tuesday. It is season 3, episode 3. And here we are together once again. Now, we got a really special surprise for you tonight. Nicole couldn't be with us due to some other issues. So we brought in somebody pretty amazing. The founder of the feast, the president of Transworld, all over the place. You know her, you love her. Welcome our special co-host for tonight, Miss Jenny Thaler. Welcome, Jen. How are you?
I'm great.
Yay! Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, so excited, so excited. So, what is a day in the life of Jenny? What did you do today?
A lot of stress. I'm always stressed out. What did I do today? I got up, take the kids to school, the normal thing, and then just start working. I mean, we're working on Legendary. We're working on seminars for Transworld, and we're selling booth space, and the show's earlier this year, so it's a lot more pressure.
Exactly. All that time frame just gets compacted.
And I'm going to St. Louis on Thursday.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Nice little jaunt down there.
Yeah, we want to look at what's going on with the construction for the convention center so Rich can kind of lay out the floor, make sure it looks good.
I'm sure everybody's going to be excited to see that map. That's
going to be sure. Me too.
Well, I can't believe it. We have 41 days left to Halloween, 52 days to Legendary Haunt Tour, and we've got one of the most iconic legendary lineups that we could have ever hoped for Transworld Live.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
Jenny, who do we have rocking with us tonight?
Tonight, we're going to start with Sean Morris from Morris Costumes. Legendary company. Such a legendary company. And then we've got Ben Armstrong, another legend from Netherworld Haunted House. So, I mean, it just doesn't get better, Chris. You can't get better than that.
This is crazy. I'm so excited to be just a part of this because we have the ability to bring all of these amazing haunt lovers, horror lovers, costume, Halloween, all of these Christmas lovers, everybody from around the industry, just the best and the brightest of our industry. And that's thanks to you.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks to everyone who agreed to do it.
That too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited. Jenny and I were talking about this, our first guest here at like 6:30 or 7 o'clock this morning. Been excited all day. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Sean Morris from Morris Costumes.
Woo!
What's going on?
How is everybody? Bye.
So excited to have you a part of this. As Jenny and I were just talking about, you're a legend. Your entire company is a legend in this industry. You pioneered the entire costume game and Halloween and all of these industries that were started by your grandfather, Philip Morris.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're so excited to be here, and Transworld has been a huge part of our company for a very long time. Thank you for having us again.
And Sean has so many great stories to share. Chris and I were talking about it that, Sean's going to have to give us, a little bit of tidbit on his history because there's so much meat there. I mean, it's just, and a lot of people don't truly understand what Philip Morris did for the Halloween industry. All of us these days benefit from what your grandfather started, honestly.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I guess let me tell a little bit about how we got started in the industry for those that don't know about us. So my grandfather has always been an entertainer in the entertainment industry. He started off his childhood by traveling 30 miles a day by hitchhiking to learn magic from the famous Blackstones, and which is just amazing. For those that know who Harry Blackstone Sr. was, he's just as famous, if not more, than Houdini and David Copperfield. And that was kind of what got him, I guess, in the entertainment industry. He, at the age of 13, lit a cherry bomb and threw it in a kid's tuba during a school orchestra, and his mother ended up kicking him out of the house. And so he started traveling the country doing magic, just to try and get by, and then went from magic into ghost shows or spook shows, which are where they would take a theater and turn out all of the lights, including the exit lights, and they would tell people that there were spiders that were going to be crawling through the crowd or through the audience, and they would throw out rice. They would have photoluminescent boards, and to where ghosts would appear right in front of you. They would fake, cut body parts off, and blood would spray all over the crowd. And it was really kind of this was even before haunted houses existed. So I guess this was kind of the start into people paying to get scared.
Yeah.
And so that was, I guess, kind of our lead into the Halloween industry, I guess, at least, or the horror industry, I guess. And then from there, he was a ringmaster on several circuses, including the Hannaford Circus, the Ronald McDonald Circus, and a few others. Yeah. And then I guess from there, one of our next biggest accomplishments, which got us into costumes, I guess, was because of being the ringmaster and doing all of these ghost shows. They just had an entire basement full of costumes, and all of the neighborhood kids would come over and want to borrow them for Halloween. And so we just decided that we were going to turn that into a business. And at about the same time, which would have been back in the early 60s, they started making gorilla costumes as well, which they sold in a magazine called Entertainment Magazine. And they made plaster of Paris molds, and every night they go down and pour up a new gorilla. And our most famous gorilla costume went to Roger Patterson's 1965 famous Bigfoot costume, with the black and white Bigfoot of him crossing through the woods there. Yeah, doing the stride.
Awesome.
It's amazing that gorilla costume has had an impact not only on UFO believers and cryptology and Bigfoot, of course, those lovers, but also like just in the comedian circuits, famous movies like Trading Places and MASH and so many others have featured that running gag, which is obviously attributed to Morris costumes. And that's just so awesome.
It's the most famous costume in the world at this point.
I don't think people realize how much springboarded off of Morris costumes. I mean, I just don't think that everyone understands the true history of how much we all owe Morris for kind of like paving the way for us, and so many things, whether it's costume, they've done so much and bring so much attention to the Halloween industry for us.
Yeah, and your show has been the same for us. We were just thinking back the other day, I think it's about 38 years, give or take, that we've been exhibiting with Transworld. And in fact, actually, when we started with Transworld there, it was more of like a home and garden show almost.
Yeah, it was a general merchandise show.
General merchandise. Yeah, it really hadn't become Halloween yet. So
yeah.
Which it's just been amazing for us. We wouldn't be the size that we are today without your show, Jen. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, no, such a love fest.
That is awesome. What was your very first show? I know that Morris has been around in Transworld's history for 38 years or so, but what was your first show for you, and what age were you?
Sure. I'm pretty positive I was about 6 or 7 years old when my grandfather kind of snuck me into the first show, because it was definitely a show that at the time we were not supposed to be quite that young, but
I didn't hear that.
My grandfather is a very convincing fellow. So
through that.
Go ahead.
And I was going to say, and the show has just been great for us to where, and our booth, for those of you that have seen us in the last couple of years, this is no real example of how large we were back when Transworld was really the haunt show for us, and we would have 60, 70 booths. It would be both sides of the aisle. It would take us a week to set up. It was just an entirely different ball game. But now props are a lot smaller and a lot cheaper and everything else. But yes, Transworld has just been amazing.
Well, thank you.
There's a fun fact. Since we were talking about movies and entertainment, I know that Morris not only is a huge player in our industry that helped shape everything that we all do, but we know that you're involved in some movies and some of the Hollywood entertainment industry. Is there anything you might be able to share with our entire crowd here about what Morris might be working on right now?
Yeah, so we're actually working on a couple of costumes at the moment. I'm working on it specifically, speaking of gorillas, working on another gorilla costume for David Copperfield. And I cannot share what David Copperfield's going to be doing with this gorilla, but it is going to be coming to a show pretty soon.
That's cool.
But then other than that, we're just a large company. We do wholesale distribution is our main business and web fulfillment. So right now we're really just geared up. We have a 500,000 square foot facility in Charlotte, North Carolina, and a couple of overflow warehouses as well. But most of our distribution goes out of there. And really we're wide open, running 7 days a week, 18, 20 hours a day, trying to get all the orders out. And it's just wide open in Halloween. And then we also own Halloween Express. So we have a fleet of retail stores. So currently that's what I've been out doing, is trying to make sure all of our retail locations are open across the country. And we've got a good 150, 200 of them, I think, at the moment that are already open. And we're still working on some more.
That's great. Well, I think Sean's being a little modest there. They're one of the largest, if not the largest, distribution of Halloween costumes in the world. So he's not just a distribution center. So I mean, they built an amazing company. Every costume that we probably see out of our stores probably one way or another touched Morris costumes. So it's pretty interesting. What would you say, Sean, is like the best costume right now, the hottest costume out there?
Yeah, so I think the two hottest costumes, hands down, is going to be for the new Top Gun movie that's out, and also Hocus Pocus 2. We've already heard of all sorts of viewing parties that are going to be going on all throughout the country. Honestly, the Hocus Pocus is really going to be I think, in my opinion, the hot costume this year.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see the movie myself. I love the first Hocus Pocus.
People are going crazy about it.
It's such an icon, a classic movie. I think they should have done this a long time ago, but I'm so excited myself.
To let you in a little bit behind the scenes, even for Transworld Live, as we sit down and kind of production plan, we put a little note like, hey, this show, Hocus Pocus, comes out before this, so we need to talk about this. That's how big it is. So that's really cool. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. What is your favorite costume? Do you ever masquerade on Halloween, or sometimes just
you dress up?
Yeah, actually, I've got a silicone mask that I bought from CFX, and I've got an evil clown getup that I do normally.
That's awesome. Chris, what are you going to be for Halloween this year?
I was just thinking about that. Maybe I'm going to go as one of these Hocus Pocus, the Winifreds, the Sanderson sisters. We'll have some fun with it this time.
That's awesome.
I love it. Sean, I know it's a huge pleasure, and I want to say this on behalf of Jen, because I don't want to have to. Jen and I talked for probably a good hour this morning just about you and your grandfather and the entire legacy and amazingness that Morris Costumes has been to our industry, to Transworld, to Jenny and her family. And on behalf of her, just the biggest thank you for everything that you do. You are certainly carrying on that legacy 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And so from all of us that love Halloween and benefit from it, thank you for every ounce of everything that you do.
It's true. It's true.
Thank
I
you.
mean, a lot of you guys probably know Sean and see him at the booth if you go to Transworld, because he's always out there selling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And please, anybody stop by, see us at the booth at the next show. We'll be there again this year. And I'm always available. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Jenny, that was awesome. That was what like an icon of our industry.
I know. It truly is. I mean, it's an understatement. I don't even think we touched on how amazing their family truly is. You just got a snippet of that, you know?
I wish, obviously, as we have talked with him, he obviously is running nonstop, and this is obviously his biggest time of the year, but I'm glad we were able to get him for the amount of time we were.
For sure. And the other thing too is he said he does own Halloween Expresses. And if there is anyone who has a haunt and wants to add on a store to it and things like that, because it is another source of revenue, and you've already got the people there, Halloween Express is a great way to do that.
Oh, they have a ton of stores. I was looking online just before this. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are everywhere. So
yeah, they are. They really are. And they have great stuff. So, I mean, it's great. So if there is a Halloween Express in your town, you know, support it. Yeah. Because God knows they support the industry. So it's so
very much so. And check out their booth. Probably, are they up to like 2 or 3 aisles? We'll have to ask Rich for the layout for the next show. But like Morris has its own
layout, and they have other companies as well too. You know, so they sell fangs and they do a bunch of other things, Foothill Fangs, and they will have a Halloween Express booth at Transworld too.
Ah, how awesome! How awesome! Well, what an awesome opportunity. And I don't think we can get much bigger than that, except when you called me and said, who we've got as our second guest tonight. Can I let you do the intro on this one, because he's an icon, and there is not that
Hello?
Netherworld Haunted House, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Armstrong.
Woo! Sorry, I got a little there, Chris. I don't know what happened.
That's okay.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Good.
How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. Probably the haunt's been done for about, I don't know, 2 months. Just been relaxing in the tiki bar, just kind of hanging out.
Eating bonbons.
It's been delightful. Yeah, I've been catching up on Game of Thrones, you know.
Excellent.
Stuff like that. It's been, actually, I'm lying.
I was going to say, there's no way.
That is true. That is true. So yeah, just it's going crazy. We're open in a couple of days here. I don't even know, 2 days, 3 days, something like that. And yeah, it's that time of year. So everyone who owns a haunted house knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
All the last minute stuff, trying to make it perfect, you know, just all the things. So this is our 26th season, and it doesn't get any easier. So it's lots of fun.
I think that's something to really stress, that even a lifelong veteran of 26 years in the industry, you're still basically sleeping at the house and doing all those last odds and ends to make the show perfect for all of our guests.
Oh yeah, I mean, the haunts are incredible, but the complexities are always there. I mean, there's a lot to do with the actors. You know, the actors, you know, come in later, you know, and also we have a lot of outdoor activities, so you've got to put those up kind of, you know, towards the end of things, because you don't want them out there in the weather. So yeah, there's a lot to do, a lot of levels. There's so much with operations, so much behind food, all the other stuff we're doing, and there's a lot. So you're kind of, you know, going in 100 different directions at once, but it's super fun for sure, and challenging, and I think it's going to be great. I'm very excited to see it get open. I'm going to be excited to go into the phase of running an attraction rather than building one. So it's the cycle, you know?
Yeah. Will your escape rooms and all those things be open on opening night of your haunt?
Oh yeah, the escape games are open year round, and it's great to have them there because, of course, they do very well during haunt season, and a lot of people want to make a night of it. You know, going to the attractions, the midway, they book an escape game, so it really is, you know, whole evening's activities for sure.
Do you have anything else that you added different for this year in terms of some sort of like jelly ball, or did you add anything else into your midway
Well,
area?
you know, of course, the main focus is always the attractions.
Right.
We have 2 haunted houses this year: the Undying Horror and Parasitic.
Oh, wow.
So there's a huge, you know, we're doing a lot to change them and add all this crazy new stuff. Additional things we've kind of really worked on our midway. We're changing it around a lot. We have a whole new area. We have these things called Dr. Octane's Bizarre Beverages. They're non-alcoholic, but they're fun, weird, bubbling beverages. That'll be kind of a neat new thing. We have kind of a paintball scare thing, which I don't really want to talk about in detail because if you come here, you'll get to experience it potentially as both someone who's enjoying it and someone who's going to be affected by it.
Ooh,
and we're doing a kind of a version of laser tag that involves a hideous creature. So we've got a couple of fun things that we're going to be rolling out. I don't want to give away all the details now, but you'll get to check them out when you come to Netherworld. But of course, the main focus is absolutely the haunted attractions and all that stuff. And there's just so much going on. It's crazy.
yeah, it really is an evening. You know, when you go to Ben's, it really, people stay, you know, so it's great. It's not just going through the haunt. Like years ago, it was just about going to the haunt, getting in and getting out. Now these are complete experiences. So it's completely changed over the years.
Oh, absolutely. Every year we've always done things. We've always changed the theming. So we'll come up with a new name, a new concept, new icon characters, change major parts of the show, you know, audio, just the vibe of it. And it's a continuing story. It's an original story. We don't generally use like movie characters or things like that. So you're kind of going on this adventure through an outgrowth of the continuation of the stories of Netherworld. So both of these will further these tales, and there's so many people that follow it and they want to know what's the themes and what's going on with them. So it's really gratifying when people really dig into the mythology. Man, a lot of my actors, they're like, so tell me about this, and does that mean this is happening? And they're like getting all excited. I'm like, no. Oh yeah, that's right, that was 15 years ago. How do you remember that? I don't remember that. Oh, that's right, yeah, I wrote that. Yeah, so it's kind of fun.
Do you come up with all your own storylines? Like, how do you get the storylines?
I mean, I don't know. They just pop out of your brain, I guess.
Well, they don't pop out of mine, so that's
well, I mean, the things, you know, it's hilarious. I've been interviewing a lot of actors. We, you know, along with Jessica, our casting director, I interview all the employees that are going to come on this seasonally, and so many are telling me that they play Dungeons and Dragons, which is a role-playing game.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really gotten popular now. It's been featured a lot on Stranger Things, you know, which is a very popular show. And they tell me about it. I was like, yeah, you know, I think I was playing that game like 45 years ago when it first came out. They're like, what? You know, like literally. You know, for those of you who play Dungeons and Dragons, it's kind of like, it's sort of like I've create a giant dungeon and put monsters in it. It's kind of like just an extrapolation of what I was doing when I was, you know, 15 years old. So it's kind of hilarious when you look at it that way. Also, the concepts, what Netherworld is about is not, you know, following what's in the movies and that kind of trending, but it's more about the deep, resonant things of mythology. It's about cosmic horror, where man is minuscule and not important in the gulf of things from beyond that view us as nothing. And that's kind of, you know, one of the concepts, the things from the Netherworld intrude into our world. So there's a commonality with the stories, but they can be ever changing. They're not locked into like, oh, I'm in this particular place, you know. So I don't know. You kind of take, you know, you read and you do watch movies and you know, whatever source of inspiration you get, and they blend together, and then you just think about stuff, and it comes to mind like this particular story this year, the Undying Horror. what's happening in it is there's this hideous thing at the core of the netherworld, this writhing mass of flesh, and it shoots its tentacles skyward, and then they come down into the earth in the guise of this giant storm. And everywhere they land, there's a festering corruption as it's spreading its evil and producing creatures. So when you come to the show, you'll see these tentacles coming down from the sky, and they're landing, and there's membranes and things like that, and creatures are coming out of them. So it's very much a monster theme, but it's kind of like it's not like what you would normally see in a haunted house. It's a little different, although it is a haunted house. There are actors; they will jump out, they will try to scare you, but
Right.
kind of a strange cosmic horror, backstory.
That sounds amazing.
We have a comment from a super fan that you may or may not know who said, I'd rather go to Netherworld than Disney. That was said by Mr. Alan Hobbs.
Oh, why, thank you, Alan. That's very kind of you. Our beverages don't cost nearly as much, so you've made a good financial choice. No, parking is also free. Yeah, so thank you very much. You're very kind. Disney, I'll tell you, you learn a lot from Disney, and it's amazing. The last couple of years, we've been focusing a lot on some of that, kind of in our operations department, following the 4 keys of how you operate an attraction, inspiration about customer service, all that kind of stuff. There's so much that goes into running an attraction beyond the haunt, and creating that culture of positivity and guest experience. That's sort of what we're about. And like I said, literally Disney's a huge inspiration. Also, briefly wanted to mention Morris Costumes. What a great company. What a great guest. I remember getting my first Morris catalog when I first got into this industry before I ever had a haunted house. I remember, digging through it and the pages and ordering all this stuff and ordering all these magic tricks. And I mean, it's really some amazing stuff. And, personally, I was a late night horror show host, and I was, of course, inspired. Those were all came about because of the ghost masters like Dr. Evil doing those shows in theaters. They brought it to the television, and I was able to do that. And that was sort of the birth of the first haunted house I was really involved in when I produced them for Muscular Dystrophy Association as charities for years before Netherworld. So there's always these big connections with folks. These when you travel down these paths that we all do, the things that happened to you as a child, the love of Halloween, the different sorts of stuff you got into. And Morris, in many ways was a big part of that for me.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, he was a legend.
Very much so. With your esteemed history, do you have a personal favorite haunted house or horror movie or anything from your past that's like, that is my go-to? I know there's a lot for most of us, but
you mean a favorite anything?
Anything.
My favorite meal? No. Gosh, what I do love, particularly about haunted attractions, is I love going to all kinds of them when I can. It's almost impossible to go to them during the season because we're open so many nights, and I don't like to leave the haunt when it's open. But all these tours, like Legendary Haunt Tour, are amazing ways to go and see attractions, and I really love it. Going to all the Transworld ones or Midwest and going on these tours, and you can learn something from any haunted house. What's always intriguing is, what's their angle? What is their passion? Maybe the guy who runs the haunted house is a plumber, and they have an amazing scene with sewer pipes dumping water out, or there's some kind of an angle to it, or maybe they're a really good actor trainer and the actors are phenomenal, or perhaps they're just an incredible carpenter and they built these sets that are just beyond compare, or they're a crazy hoarder like me and they have junk from everywhere. So but you always kind of draw that inspiration and the creativity of stuff. And there's nothing more exciting to me when also I see new haunted houses coming up and they have an intriguing name, or there's something about them, or there's something super original that I have not seen before. And I always go like, wow, this is interesting. I wonder what this will grow into. And so I have that excitement about seeing them. Of course, I have many sorts of favorite haunted houses, but there's dozens of them because I love them for different parts and different elements. I think someone had asked me, it might have even, like, what's your favorite haunted house? Which one do you go to? I'm like, well, you know, you like Chinese food, you like Mexican food, you like, steak, and they're all in different categories. I always thought one day maybe, if I ever get time, I would like to create a family tree of haunted houses, like which ones are like others. Some are focused on detail, and that's kind of the path they go. Some are focused on, uh, the acting. Some are focused on the experience. Some are focused on just like really scaring you, and sometimes they work in different ways. Being real can be great, but sometimes being real, you want to show it off. So maybe it's brighter, so maybe it's not, maybe it's scary, but it's amazing. Some are surreal where they're, it's all detailed, but they're just lighting little bits, but it's very dark. But why are all these little lights everywhere? It doesn't make sense. It's not like a real environment. You know what I mean? It's surreal. So yeah, you could study that stuff forever and talk about it forever, but it is always fun to find the passion, the particular thing that an owner or some artist that work at that attraction bring. I love that too when you're looking at pictures and you go like, oh, you're picking out stuff, but you see something, oh, I've never seen that before. It's because there's an artist at that attraction, that is really created something that is fresh, and that's always exciting.
That's awesome.
It is good.
Question.
I'm so amazed always by listening to you that the passion you still have. I mean, I've known you forever. Ben's like my family, but when I hear him talk about it, there's that same level of excitement year after year after year, and I think that's amazing. And it's really a tribute. Ben loves what he does, and I think it shows, in your work. But you just do an amazing job. So,
well, if you'd seen me like just before we started, you would have thought different, because I think I changed my shirt, but I was covered in dust and grime, and it was like I've been out there all day in the sun. But no, it's. I mean, we can complain, and we will, but in reality, we get to work in this industry. What fun is this?
And it's great. And you actually work in your business a lot. There are people that own haunts that don't actually work in the haunt. I don't think people understand what an integral part you are in your haunted house.
There are some of my peers that make fun of me on the regular. They're like, "Don't you just have a foreman?" I'm like, oh, "What's that?" I go to work every day and turn the key, and I go in and I work with all my awesome crew, and I'm right there with them, like pretty much every single day, and that's something I need to figure out how to get out of. Because I love it. It's just like it's like wow, this is crazy, But that's why when you're like, you call me and go, oh, did you get the link for this thing? I'm like, we were just moving a giant monster, and I just ran in like 3 seconds ago, so I didn't have time to look at my computer. I haven't looked at my emails all day, So
yeah.
If there's anyone out there trying to get hold of me, sorry, that monster. So,
I think that's always a question of like a wonderfully successful attraction like yours is people will say, hey, what's that secret sauce? Yeah. But I think you already answered that. It's taking everything that's in your brain and being able to be there every day, integral with your entire crew, building and designing and dreaming. And I think that's just amazing. And we get to benefit from your vision.
Benefit is in coming here being terrified by the creatures. No, I don't know. It's certainly fun, and I love the cycle. I love the cycle of, you build and it gets more and more crazy, and you get it done, and then you get to operate, and then that goes through all of its permutations. It's very exciting in the beginning. You don't have everything done the way you want it. You keep working on it. Then you get to a point where you can't add anything, and everything starts breaking. So you're trying to keep it all working, and it's you're going along, and then you're at, okay, I'm ready for the off season, which doesn't really exist anymore.
No, not with the amount of attractions you have.
No, it does not exist. I almost think when it's over, it's like that's when you have to do all the books that you put off doing. So you spend all this time working on that simultaneously. You got to creatively be ready to go out of the gate because you got these people to start building. So yeah, it's a crazy cycle for sure. But
Have you seen any changes, Ben, honestly, since COVID, in your business where you've had a just it's different now, like, coming back. And I know we're still, in the pandemic, so I don't want to say it's, completely over, but has there been changes in terms of it's hard now to hire people? I mean, I've had my own stresses with that where things have just changed a bit. So it's, are you having more difficulty hiring people? Have you changed your marketing around? Have you done
I
anything?
mean, to hire people to work?
Yeah.
Well, remains to be seen. I mean, of course, when we came out, we have a lot of actors that work here and a huge staff. And a lot of folks did not work during the COVID year, but we didn't need as many because we were severely limiting our attendance. So when we came out of the COVID year, a lot more people stepped up and returned. Um, so we didn't really feel it as much because they were returning. And now we're where we are, even more are coming back. But what you see with your cycle of staff, at least what we see, is that people will work often for years, but they get more established in life and they have less availability. So we see right now, like there's so many people that have come back or that have worked here for years, but a lot of them they're very busy. So it's a huge, incredible patchwork of putting these people together to create your group every night. The new folks, though, we're getting a lot of new hires.
That's great.
They came. They were a little slower, I think, in the beginning, but we just did a really big push at Dragon Con, which is a giant
It's huge, yeah.
Sure.
convention. And we hadn't really been there in force for several years because of COVID. So right here, there's a lot of folks that we met both at. We had a booth and we did a big presence at the parade, and we did a big outreach there. So we have a lot coming in right now. So I think we're getting to where we need to be, but it's always something you worry about. Are you going to have enough staff? And the big challenge that we have is it's not so much actors, but our operations staff has expanded enormously because we now have multiple food, we have photos, we have gift shops, we have all these different activities, and now we're back at our old location. Basically, a bunch of like pay lots just came around us, and we never dealt with parking. Now we got to deal with parking, and we still have free parking here, but it's a lot just to develop those areas and to man them and staff them and to train people. But we have a really good team and a good plan going forward with that. So it's that too. That's a whole huge component of it, and and people have choices now. I mean, there's a lot of everyone wants to hire people, so get people to come, you have to do. I mean, really, you just have to be something they want to be a part of. And I think we're going to do fine. I know it's something to be concerned about. And it's definitely on our minds. Are we going to have issues? We're actually finding it difficult to do things like hiring police officers, stuff like that. That's actually
I can see that. Yeah.
that's becoming a challenging thing. But there's some of those kind of things that are kind of global, like where do you find these? Similarly, I mean, anyone who's operating in any kind of business now knows it's difficult to get vendors, like getting supplies of products, getting people to show up, and a plumber, stuff like that can be challenging.
Yeah.
Because all of those places, like every vendor, my ice guy came in today who does ice machines, and we have an ice machine, and he's setting it up, and he's like just talking about how you can't get anyone to work for him, and we hired him, called him like 2 weeks ago, and he just now came in. So there's a lot of that in the world, but at least our business is temporary. At least our business is fun, so we will draw a lot of people. So that's a good thing.
That's great to hear, because I talked to, and I don't know about Chris, but I talked to a lot of haunted houses, and they're definitely struggling getting staff in, and I talked to a lot of exhibitors, and they're having trouble. They have plenty of orders, but they're having trouble getting people to work for them. So, that's you're in kind of a good spot there. That
we'll see. We'll see. Come opening day, which is like 3 days away. But and also as we process through all of the new folks and see how they land. But I think we're in a good spot. But it's definitely it's something I'm thinking about.
We have a question from the audience about your staffing, as they probably run their own house, but it's a two-parter. One is, how many year-round staff do you have? And then the second part is, from an infrastructure, how many do you have that are like directors or managers that help keep everybody doing what they need to do?
Ooh, how many do I have?
You can estimate.
I would say, no, so you got Escape. I would say between 10 and 20 are year-round.
That's a lot.
Wow.
Year-round staff.
It is a lot.
Here at Netherworld. And then most of them take on roles that are, like you said, directors of different things. We also have a large group of seasonal staff where we're actually bringing on more and more as we grow into all these departments. It's become very difficult for us to manage as many. Like, for example, I think this year we're probably going to have over 350 people working here. So
That's a
we
lot.
have a fair amount of seasonal managers that we're bringing in, particularly in the realm of food, photo, parking, operations, all the other front of house, cashiers, in that realm, because there's a lot of things that they've got to look for. But we've been doing it a long time, so we've got a pretty good support structure on that.
350, holy cow.
Not per night.
No, but wow.
It's still a lot to manage. I can manage 10. And that is
I got some pretty sharp folks working for me, so I can be a dope.
That's awesome.
That is great.
No, that's awesome.
So Ben, to answer the marketing question, because I know some people have been asking about that. So the marketing question would be, have you done, since COVID, have you kind of done anything different in terms of, are you taking more billboards, less billboards, are you hitting marketing harder or less? It was interesting because after COVID, a lot of people said, I don't need to market anymore. I had great numbers. But if you think about it, you didn't have the theme parks open. You didn't have a lot of competition. So a lot of people started pulling back from marketing. So I think it would be interesting from your perspective. Obviously, you have a well-established base of people that come year after year after year. But did anything change after COVID in terms of your marketing? Did you and Billy decide to take more billboards, less billboards, do different radio advertising? I think people would kind of like to hear a little bit about that from you.
So this year is, of course, in progress, and we'll kind of, work on it as we go. Post-COVID, I believe we were a little bit light. No, I wouldn't say light. Okay, we market thoroughly. That's the word I will use. We market thoroughly. One of our favorite things to do is outdoor advertising, aka billboards, because everyone drives cars.
Yep.
You can reach everybody that way. Back in the day, I would hate to try to open a haunted house now. I can't imagine, because fortunately we have a lot of legacy marketing, which is people look for us every year. It's a tradition. It's like you get out there, you look for new people, but mainly you're reminding people that you're there and you want to bring them in. And frankly, everything that promotes Halloween or any other haunted house out there is working to create the noise that brings in the people. But last year, I think because we were a little, we didn't know how it was going to go, we held back a little bit just to be,
makes sense.
Efficient. But it was an extremely successful year. Extremely.
That's awesome.
So, but
Yeah.
the thing is, though, you never want to, think that it's because of something like, oh, I don't need to advertise anymore. I mean, I think you should. My general way of doing things of any sort is that you always want to do I call it planting your flag. Like when you open your first haunted house, there's all this battle and it's all over and the smoke clears and you're alive, or not. But let's say you're alive, you're planting a flag, and then okay, I'm alive. So now it worked. So now you do what you did the same, but you could change a little bit. If you change something radical, you may fail. You can take big jumps and try to be successful, but your market, your location, your people, everything you have, so you always want to move the needle a little bit. You don't want to go crazy with it. Like, I don't think it's important anymore. So over the course of years, you may taper off on, like, say, terrestrial radio, but you want to just cut it off right on away. Well, you consider the fact that a lot of people maybe listen to it, and that's where you got the clientele over the years. You may want to taper it.
Yeah.
I think you would be a crazy thing. So I think this year also last year. So in 19 pre-COVID, we really got hammered by weather. I mean, we always get rain off and on. Rain is always a problem for haunted attractions.
Always.
We can operate fine, but it just keeps people from going out. It's a problem.
Sure.
So, but in 19, it rained on a lot of our critical major Fridays and Saturdays. It like kept coming around.
That kills you. Yeah.
It was really bad. So last year, we had a really good weather season. So, that kind of affects things as well. That tips the scale. So I don't know. Marketing wise, I think we're getting back to normal a little bit. I think we're probably going to grow it a little bit, but we're not going to move too far out of our bubble because our general, whatever it is we're doing is reasonably successful. So we're not going to deviate too far from it.
Makes sense.
It does. It does.
Was there another question there? I don't remember. About marketing. I don't know.
No, I think you covered it. I just think some people were curious about, how you do it. Like everyone wants to know the secret sauce. So
well, probably one of the things, I'm not talking about the marketing that we do, but one of the things that has been key, I think, to our success has been the theming that, where you change. You don't just say the same haunted house is opening again. Come on, see us. You say, okay, this is what's new. And so every year, like if I'm talking to reporters, they're like, well, what's happening this year? Oh, this year it's this thing, and this is what it's about. Because I believe that it should be like a sequel to a movie. A sequel to a movie should have the elements.
Oh, I love that.
Of the original movie that you loved. Once again, you can't deviate too far from the formula, but it has to have some new twists and turns to create. That's why I want to come see it, because there's something that is appealing to me. Something that's a little different. So that's been a key component of Netherworld's marketing for years, and I've seen a lot of haunted attractions do it. Not as many as I would have thought. People will change their artwork, but they don't okay, now this year it's this. So. But if you want to see how that really works, look at Universal Studios. Every year they'll change all their houses. Yeah. Everyone's like, well, what's the house? What's the house? Of course, it's expensive to change things a lot. So there's certainly economies of scale. But a lot of this comes into the concept of just, how it feels, as opposed to there's no point necessarily in changing wall panels, but how are they decorated? How are they lit? How are you propped out? And what is the path? Those are things you can change with a little less difficulty.
Do you change your escape? And I'm sorry to veer off from the haunt, but do you change your escape rooms as well? Like every year?
Billy, my business partner, Billy, he talks about doing that, but I kind of feel like we're still doing well. What I prefer to do is to build more. Because escape games do so, compared to a haunt, they do so fewer people.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're in such a huge city. I think that, eventually, there's some metrics in the escape industry. They talk about, has it been played 2,000 times or whatever that number is, where they think you should turn it over. Mm-hmm. But in reality, that's based upon, what kind of pool of people you have to come. But what also I see happens a lot, and it's kind of more than I would believe, is that we have, believe it or not, a lot of repeat customers. So there's people that do go to the escape games and then they come back with different people.
Yeah, they want their friends to experience what they experienced.
And then sometimes too, like our games, the way they are, they're busy. There's a lot to do. It's not, when I was first playing games, I got really aggravated by games that had just a few puzzles and they were extremely hard. I like to, I get to, solve a lot of little things, so they're busy. So if you have a game that's very busy, people could play and completely not see half the game because their friends are getting these other things. Right. So there's a little bit of replayability in it, and it may be just as challenging with a different group. I remember Dwayne at 13th Gate. We went and played some of his games, and some of the crew had played the same games previously, but still it was hard because other people had done things and they didn't know everything that was done. And sometimes you come in with this false sense of security, but there was so much to do. And while, there's different teams, I don't know, there's a level of replayability, I think, for people who like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Are all your games 40 minutes, Ben, or are some of them 5-minute or 10-minute escapes?
Oh no, they're all hour long.
They're all hour long. Okay.
We have a it's funny. So as you guys out there in TV land may or may not know, I've helped Jen with seminars for years. And one time she often will send me lists of, of topics. And she sent me once and I was feeling saucy. So I was just making jokes about them. And she had one on 5-minute escape games. And I said, 5-minute escape games are how to lose money by not doing 3-minute escape games. So we have a 3-minute escape game because it takes 5 minutes to turn it over. You have a 5-minute game, it takes 7 minutes to turn it over. I mean, do a 3-minute game. What's the difference? But anyway, this is from Midway concept. But no, we have the main ones. But yeah, we have some small things that we'll do during the season.
Yeah, just run people through it. Yeah. That's interesting.
A lot of our viewers right now are asking some great questions. If we can pick your brain for a few more, if you don't mind.
Gosh, I don't have much left in my brain, but sure.
We're going to try. Okay. One of the questions that came in was how many, if you had to take a guess, either rooms or percentage, because obviously as we're getting around to that secret sauce, it is continuing that storyline and making sure that there's change and something to look forward to. Like you said, the sequel. How much change do you do in your house from year to year on average?
People ask me that a lot, and there's literally there's not like a mathematical formula that I said about doing. It's kind of like we sort of go, what big new things do we want to do? And then we start working at those. Sometimes things change a lot, like our second show, which is this year called Parasitic. It's our science fiction show. So that last year, it was a 3D show. But we did the 3D in such a way that it could be removed without destroying the show because I didn't want to be stuck with it. It's something we'll do once every 10 years or something like that. But that show in particular, for example, go in the same way, but then we busted through a wall. We completely reversed the entire path of the show. So the entire show is backwards from what it was. And it's no longer a 3D show. It's a plant theme. And we took things in it and we moved it around. So not only are you going through backwards, but a lot of things are all different. And of course, a lot of the audio tracks and lighting is different. So, there's a lot changed in that show. We're actually also going outside, doing an outside area, but it wasn't literally a plan for a percentage. It was just sort of like we wanted to do a little bit of a different kind of a flow for various reasons, and it just ended up becoming a very complex rebuild. It's not really effective always a lot of people, what I see some of the people do is they'll knock down sections of a haunted house and then rebuild them. But to me, it's all a lot of it's got to do with the layers of what you put into an area. I think another thing too we've done this year is we have an attraction. Our building has 25-foot ceilings. So back in Norcross, we had 40-foot ceilings, but you can't really building stuff that big is crazy. But so we have a lot of room to build up, and we've built up we've added a lot of height. We have a lot of height in certain areas already, but we've added a lot of height, even more. We built a bunch of new monsters this year. I have all these monsters that we have, and the crew just built monsters. It's a big art year, so we were just creating these things out of stuff, and they're huge, but they're up high, and you might run through the haunted house and you might not even see them. Of course, if you're looking at a big monster, then an actor has a good shot at you.
Right at your, yep.
Showing your neck, right? You show your neck,
you're exposed.
They can get you. But so we've built up a lot. We've built a lot of height into scenes. So
That's awesome.
and there's a couple of huge scenes that are quite different, and then also you refine. Like you go a particular room, and maybe it's a similar room, and you just kind of recraft it to change how the scare works in the room, to optimize it better for an actor, or to change it up, or just I mean, there's several rooms that we did stuff like that too. I mean, anyway, it's just,
Okay.
but it's not based on a percentage. It's sort of just based on like, what are you gonna do? What drives you? I mean, there's definitely, you could go like, oh my God, we did too much, which I'm starting to feel. In general, it feels that way because like, why is it? It's just been a very like, the plane's like coming down really fast, but we're gonna land. It's gonna be okay. But it's like, sometimes you have years where it's like, yeah, we got this. It's cool, and some years you're like, what's happening? But anyway, I don't know.
That's a good answer. It's about the artistry.
Yeah, it is, and that's the thing too, is you when you work with a lot of artists, and I'm like, okay, I'm like the guy, like, okay, I'm looking at all of it, right, goal oriented, not task oriented. And people in the task are like, oh, but I need another week. I'm like, no, week, it's gonna okay, and then the week turns into a month, and you're like, ah. Anyway, but it's cool. It's cool.
Well, just as a follow-up on that, I know you mentioned Norcross, and for those that have been following Netherworld for a while, I know that you've changed locations a couple of times. Is Stone Mountain hopefully your permanent home?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we only really changed like 3 times ever.
Yeah.
But we were in Norcross for many, many years, which the location was ideal, and it really helped us become successful because it was right on a major highway.
Sure.
The location was amazing. The building was not at all. I mean, it was cool because it was big, it was tall ceiling. But our new location we own. We bought the building, we bought the land. We have 10 acres, so we're here until we decide, hey, we need to sell this thing. Golf. But no, it's
that's awesome.
I don't. Maybe what's that thing you guys love? What's it? The paddle with the pickleball. That's the one. Hearing about it, but I'm not actually.
That's the Haunter's retirement home gift, I guess.
I don't.
Seriously.
Pickleball. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah. What was the question? I derailed my train of thought.
That's okay.
Oh, you're just saying, are we going to move again? No, we're not going to move. I mean, I sometimes think about doing other ones. It was a real experience to purchase a building and to renovate it and to go through all the stuff to actually and then own it. And now we're into that. It's like it might be cool to purchase additional properties with the thought of purchasing the property and putting in an entertainment. Because you could probably go like, especially the way real estate is now, you could probably go, even if you're in a break-even mode, the building would accrue in value, But this is home base. This is not going anywhere. We got finally a lot of land where we can bury lots of bodies. So I don't want anyone digging this place up. Nope.
Well, just as a final follow-up question from you, have a lot of fans and a lot of people look to you. They say imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery. But Alan Hopp says just flat out, he steals so many monsters from you and just wanted you to know.
Well, Alan, so that guy's a creative dude.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
And
I'll agree on that.
I like people who think about haunting, like think about it, like what are we doing and how, and like and all this kind of, like not just like, oh, how do you paint a board, okay, but like how does it work and what's it about, and Alan does a lot of that, and so he inspires everybody. I love going to one of his things. I'm like, God, that's really cool. It's intriguing.
For sure.
And he's a guy who's been just innovating like crazy for years. So another guy, really fun to watch. Of course, like, I love getting stuff from Alan as a vendor, talking about Transworld vendors, because he has creative ideas. Like I got this big worm from him, this big blobby worm monstrosity thing. And we didn't even put it in
8 o'clock
this year. So you'll see it. It's animated. It's this strange worm creature. So I got one of his monsters too.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's awesome. Well, Ben, we
have the questions. I've
one more question.
I won't shut up.
I think
I have to go out and do lighting here in a little bit. So
we have one more question.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know, what's your method of combating the dreaded 2-hour wait times? And do groups often catch up to each other? given how big Netherworld is.
Oh, I could talk about this 4 minutes.
I think it's
No.
a good ending question.
Well, okay. Well, there's a lot to unpack here. So, okay, this is just me telling you guys something. So, you know, if you run a successful haunted attraction, people will run into each other, and you just have to design your haunted attraction so that you can do that. The best way to have a line of people going through your haunted attraction is you have so much happening that they can't possibly see it all. But in order to do that, it costs a lot of money to do that. So you get that money by having them go through the haunted house. So you go through phases of growth and challenge to do that. We have there's a couple things as far as the 2 hour wait times, and we used to have incredible wait times, even though we were running our attraction at an extremely high rate. And uh, that's tough. But we've recently moved to time ticketing, and I really love time ticketing now. I did the math many times in the past, and it seemed like it was a bad move, but ultimately it's great because you get to space people out, and it's really helped us out with things like parking because you have a regular. The problem is if you have thousands of people in gigantic queue lines waiting to go in your haunted house, they're all got to park somewhere. They got to be somewhere. And if they've been in line for hours, doesn't matter how good your show is, they're going to be unhappy with it.
Yeah.
And also the actors are going to get ground up by all this. So with time ticketing, we're able to get a very high rate of people come in, they process, they leave. It's a constant cycle. You're just moving it. You're moving through your parking. And we're able to almost to do more numbers with less parking, which is a huge asset. Now, this is a thing that we call them ropers. So in a haunted house, your greatest nemesis is what we call the tourist. And this is the person who wants to look at the haunted house and go, oh, look at that. Well, look at that. And they walk in the room and they stand there. And behind them are 350 people in a line standing stock still.
Yep.
So what we do is we have the roper, and the roper will walk up and go, hello, and hand them a rope. And they grab the rope, and then we pull them. We pull them through the haunted house. It's like, and so we do an enhanced experience. The roper will talk to them and move them along because you can scare a scared person forward. But if someone wants to just look at stuff, you create an enhanced experience and I'm playing a game. You're pulling me. This is exciting. So anyway, the goal is to declog the haunted house. If you get someone who's really slow, you just need to, guide them to the side and then, let them look and let the people go past them. And you find ways to get them around. But, you love haunt fans who really enjoy the haunt, but there's a metric there. Most people who really get it and know haunts, yes, they know they're slow and they'll let people pass, and that's wonderful. But yes, if you see a guy with a rope handing you a rope, you go, oh gosh,
I'm that guy.
I'm that guy, yeah. But like I said, once I remember a lot of moments in the haunted house where I was acting. I'm in a scene or I'm just in some environment, and people are standing still, and then they're like, wait. Now look around, because it's like, okay, we're not rushing through. Now we have to stop the room. We can actually look. And if the haunt has tons of detail and tons of cool stuff to look at and lots of things moving and projections on the ceiling and all this stuff, when they're stuck, they still have something to look at. They're still being entertained.
Yeah.
So as long as that happens, when you're in that kind of a situation, it becomes difficult for the actors, of course, but you build your scene for actors to scare and have places to withdraw, to hide, to scare, to have multiple hits. Like if you have a big scene and an actor's just in a room and they're like, hi, they have nowhere to go. That's also part of the haunt design. You want to create environments for actors to be able to retreat and to reappear and to strike multiple rooms, as opposed to just being in a space where they just have to interact. There's so much to that, but anyway,
sounds like a great seminar for Transworld.
Really does.
I've given it before. Like
I know, but it's just every time I hear it, it just sounds good. I feel like we haven't done it in a while.
But anyway, but no, like I said, throughput it's a big challenge.
Yeah.
And but if you're able to move people through and still entertain them as they move, And if you can, with time ticketing, if you can space them out on your property so they're not in the super long. Like last year, I mean, most of our groups were in line in the primary line only 30 minutes.
Oh wow!
Like they might come and go into one of the holding queues.
And given how big those lines are,
They might be there an hour if they were in the holding queue for 30 minutes, and then they dump into the main. And if we have a really slow, like a slower door person, or there's a problem, then your queue builds out. But then, you try to take control. But that was a very high numbers we're going through at that point, and it was working great. So time ticketing, I suggest you try it out.
I think that's a wonderful plug. That Ben is a wealth of knowledge, and we are getting a ton of questions that I know you don't have time right now to answer. So we're just grateful that you're with us and able to answer.
Go at least at midnight. So let's go. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Hopefully we're all going to have a wonderfully successful season. And something that's at the end of that tunnel is the Legendary Haunt Tour, which you're a founding partner of all the way back in 2010, I think.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right? Yeah.
I don't think of years in such ways. I had to mentally walk through my mind, anyway. But yes, I believe you.
So Ben, Chris and I were talking this morning, and we were talking about, I wonder what Ben's favorite Legendary Haunt Tour was.
Yeah. We're putting you on the spot.
I mean, we know I don't go into the
You want me to say? You want me to say? Because I will.
You can say.
Ooh. Breaking news.
Well, okay. I'll say that they're all delightful in their own ways. Amazing haunted houses. One of the ones I think that really deeply inspired me was the one we did up in New England. And we went to Spooky World. Mm-hmm. And then we went to Fright Kingdom, and then we went to Haunted Overlook.
Rich said the same thing the other day.
We also went to Salem, so that was delightful. And it was, at Spooky World, for our meal we had lobster. Yeah, freaking lobster. It was a great attraction. Those guys are super nice. And Fright Kingdom, Tim Dunn, that place was great. He's such a collector of so many cool. He's got all these old VP Productions things, old John Denley pieces and stuff from the old Transworld days. He has a Quagmire, which we have one of those, so that's a very rare stage fright piece. But getting to Haunted Overload, that place, I think it's sort of like it is Halloween. It's such an inspiration from if you love Halloween, and it was really interesting because I had several different experiences there. I went through one of the last groups that actually went through the attraction, and we left. And then all the actors were coming out, and I was like, "Hey, can I walk through it one more time? Just walk through it because it's outside, Yeah. Just walking through the woods with the fog and New England and the trees and the way that he's built stuff. It was really cool. And standing by the bonfire after, and they were all so excited because a lot of people were. They were so excited because that's one of the things about Legendary Haunt Tour. It's like you can't. It's right after the season, so there's a lot of haunts that shut down. They can't open with their same cast, But to be able to go to that and actually walk through it and to see it and to get the vibe of it, was really great. Like I said, they're all good in their own ways, and there's different things. But to me, that it took me back. You forget sometimes where you come from.
Yeah.
And you get away from it. Like here at Netherworld, the year of COVID, it was so intensely depressing, but we did a Halloween theme. And the whole year we were all about Halloween and buying Halloween shirts and Halloween masks because we had to meet, talk about COVID. But it was like Halloween was like this energy that pulled us through that here at Netherworld. And, going on that tour was like, once again, because you get, I'm into horror, I'm into monsters, and you go off in these tangents. But, to me, like the best haunted house, it's what I call the razor's edge. You run the razor's edge between horror and Halloween, and the perfect spot is where you want to be. Too Halloween is maybe too family. Too horror can be very, mean and gross, whatever. But the perfect blending of those is what a haunted attraction should be. And that little taste there, that got me into, that was like, bam, Halloween again. Yeah, Halloween. Of course, now I think I've forgotten about it again, but I'm gonna go back to it. No, that's not true. If you come this year to our Midway, it is Halloween. It's Halloween. The attractions are not. The
Excited
first
to
one
see it.
is cosmic horror and giant monsters, and the second one is science fiction and plants that will eat you. But yeah, the Midway is Halloween, and that's where it's gonna stay.
That's awesome.
What would you say to anyone? Because we know that Legendary Haunt Tour is a staple of your postseason recovery, if we could say it that way. What would you say to anyone that's considering or maybe has never been on the tour? What advice would you give them?
Well, probably one of the things that is really great about that tour is that there's also usually panels where the people will discuss their methodology. And so when you get to go to someone's attraction for something like Legendary Haunt Tour, and they'll kick out the stops, they'll make sure that everything's polished and every little bit of makeup is everything. It's going to be, you know, middle of the season. You come on a Tuesday, people are like, yeah, whatever, boo, But Legendary Haunt Tour, you're going to get a super performance. But then, there'll be a meal, there'll be parties, and there'll be opportunities to like talk to them.
Yeah.
And when you actually see someone's attraction that is of this caliber, and Nashville Nightmare, I mean, that is a phenomenal haunted house. It's been a number of years since I saw it, and I'd heard about it, and I went, and I was like, it is really good. I mean, and it's huge. Just goes on and on. It's like you better get some good walking shoes because that is a long haunted house. But no, it is really good. But then to talk, you see the owners, and they have a Q&A and talk to them. They're talking about their process and what they do and how they do it, and you've just seen the attraction, so it has a lot more. You can really learn from that.
Yeah. For sure.
Because you've just seen it, and then now you're there and you're in the environment, and you can often the staff is there and they're mingling around. How did you make that? And they're it's just a good. And also, like I said, it's the first. Normally, you go to that, and then there's IAPA, and then then there's Transworld, and it's like the cycle. Well, this year Transworld's like, isn't Transworld like before Christmas or something?
You're so rude.
I think I'll have a rap party, and then we'll just jump in the car and go to Transworld.
Yeah,
so.
I know.
But anyway,
it's a good thing I love you, Ben. Yeah. And that just means you and Alan have to start on the seminars earlier. Do you hear that, Alan?
Those eyes.
Those thing happening like 4 days where we like open and we have to run a haunted house. So
I get it. Well, I appreciate you being on tonight. That's the best thing about Ben. You can give him a call and you're like, I just think, people want to hear from you. They want to know what's going on. They want to know what it's like before you open and kind of where your head's at. So
I spent the day out in the sun on a rickety ladder trying to put a robe on a Reaper. I think I did that with multiple giant monsters today. And I was, picking a magnet with picking up screws in the parking lot. What else did I do today? Similar activities. They were quite, I was dragging tarps. I had all these tarps I was dragging, wadding up and stuffing into a dark, I mean, this is what I was doing, so yeah.
Even an industry leading veteran is doing the same thing that some of those little first start haunted houses are doing as well.
Yep. Ben does everything.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks, Ben, for being on tonight.
Do a lot. You don't have to do it great. You just have to do a lot of it. So it never stop. But we all know that's how you open a haunted house. You just never stop. So anyway.
Well, you guys can hear more from Ben at Transworld.
Yep.
He'll be doing some seminars this year. Do you like that, Ben?
Probably, yeah. Yes, I think I got it down to 7 last year, so I was slacking.
Only 7?
Alan's got me beat. He did about 14.
Well, Alan did a lot, and he did a lot at MHC too.
He did that one live shot from his shower. That was the one that really threw me. But,
Can we also
how to clean off your makeup? Use a shower, and it was like he had the soaps, he had the aloof
Oh my
is
God.
amazing.
Can we get you a life-size cutout like Alan that says, I'm teaching a class, you know?
No.
Oh, I love that he did that at Transworld. I thought that was awesome.
It did make for much sport in the on the interwebs. I must say. It did. But what a good sport Alan is.
Yes.
That's right.
Well, if I can add just on Jen's behalf, we both get a chance to talk to Jen a lot because we work together on a whole bunch of stuff. And just so she doesn't have to say it, I could tell you from my perspective, she talks about how insanely awesome and influential and just she could not operate the way that she,
It is true.
without you. She calls you her right hand. And so we just want to thank you for everything.
More like her left foot, I would say.
Left foot's great.
But in fairness, you guys,
got such a great support staff now.
But Ben's just glad because he doesn't have to be it anymore. But just so that there's a lot of things people from the industry don't know, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Ben, but Transworld really wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for Ben. You know, Ben sat on the phone with me for hours and helped me through a lot of the seminars. Larry Kirshner did the same thing in the beginning. I mean, I needed a lot of help, so did Randy Bates, but Ben stuck with me and he helped me through the seminars and he tried to get us the best seminars that were going to be important for people to learn so that they could better their haunted houses or get into the business. And I can't say enough. We really wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for Ben. And it's just the truth. I said it when I gave him the award at Legendary. And, you know, I remember being in Kansas City with Ben. We were looking at the Kansas City Convention Center, I think. And we were at breakfast at the Sheridan. And I'm like, I really want to do a haunt tour. And Ben's like, I think, what about November? You know, and I'm like, what about you being my partner? You know, and helping me through it. And we just, you know, I can't tell you how supportive Ben is and how much he cares about the industry, you know, and it's not just monetary for Ben. It's his true passion and it's amazing. So I feel fortunate enough to call him one of my close friends and I appreciate everything he's done for us. So, I love you, Ben.
I'm embarrassed.
Mission accomplished.
So, well, thanks for coming on tonight, Ben. We know you're busy.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a lot of sleeping to do. I'm not joking. Anyway. Yeah.
You'll get to sleep in a couple months.
Yes.
All
right, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good night.
Thank you so much. Thanks for all the fun questions.
Thanks, Ben.
Well, tonight's great.
Wow, Jen. That's just incredible.
I appreciate everyone coming on. I mean, I know that Sean Morris is crazy busy right now, opening up the stores. I know Ben's opening in a couple of days. So, I mean, to be able to get, you know, two legendary guys on tonight, really, it was amazing. So thank you.
To be able to share that with all of you, which is just amazing. And as we've been talking about this entire run, you can be a part of Legendary Haunt Tour. You can sit there and pick brain. You can hobnob and rub elbows with all of these amazing people from our industry. LegendaryHauntTour.com. It's the second weekend in November 11th and 12th. And this year, we're going to Nashville.
Who doesn't want to go to Nashville? You should see we've got the hot chicken, the barbecue. I mean, you're going to enjoy it. I mean, it's going to be an eating fest in all these haunts. We've got a lot of great food catered in, and the experiences are going to be great. So please join us in Nashville in a couple of weeks.
And Jenny, how many haunted attractions are we going to be visiting over these 2 days?
4.
Oh, that's awesome.
You get 4 different experiences. You get to learn about all these different things. It's just such a great time to network too, because everything's fresh in your head from the season. So it gives you a chance to really talk to everyone. And you have industry leaders there. So it's really a great experience. You don't always get to talk to these people when you go to the different conventions, but when you're on a bus with them and you're at a meal with them in an intimate setting, you get all that experience. So
very much. It's something that you cannot miss. And what a great way to wrap up the season and start your planning for the next one.
Great. All right.
Well, Jenny, it's been such a pleasure to have you as my This is awesome. We're getting comments from the audience here. It's been a pleasure having you here with us, and thank you for everything that you do to bring us all together. All right, folks. Well, thank you for joining, and we will see you next Tuesday, 7 o'clock. That's Tuesday, September 27th, where we will bring you more behind the scenes and extra special guests. Don't miss it, and we'll see you soon.